In your column, you mentioned that few things pain you more than to see someone visit a new city and eat at a chain restaurant. Can you explain that?
Every city has its specialties. Every city has their little hidden gems. Every city has something to offer. And when I see a tourist or a traveler go to a new city and then they're just eating at just something that you can get at home, or just a plain chain restaurant where there's so much better food out there, it just makes me sad. I mean, really, everybody should take advantage of the opportunities of the cuisine, of the areas, everything that's, that's hidden, that's special to that region.
And this week, you visited Charleston, and so you were inspired by that visit?
Yeah, Charleston has some really great restaurants, and everybody knows that, but a lot of people shoot for the more touristy options. There are a couple restaurants right downtown that are just amazing, and I don't think enough travelers go to them. I hear that they're more for the locals anyway, but I think there's so much that they have to offer. These restaurants are Magnolia, Blossom, and Cypress. They're sister restaurants to one another. And I went to Cypress this last trip, and it was wonderful. I loved it. I loved everything about it.
Your first recipe is salmon and phyllo. Tell me about that.
Well, the whole menu was inspired by the entree that I had at Cypress, and this is different, somewhat different than what I had there. But it's basically just a salmon fillet with a sort of mushroom pesto almost that it's on top of the salmon and below the salmon, and you're going to have several layers of phyllo dough. Which, if you've never worked with phyllo, just be confident with it, but just be gentle because it'll tear very easily. It'll dry out very easily. Phyllo is layered with melted butter, and that way when it cooks, the butter expands and puffs up the pastry, and you get this nice crispy outer layer to the salmon. The mushrooms have a mixture of breadcrumbs and almonds and seasonings in them, and it's something different, and it's a nice combination.
How hard is it to make the grainy mustard hollandaise?
Well, in culinary school, hollandaise was my kryptonite. I've always had a problem with it. A hollandaise is easy to scramble because it's basically you start out with a reduction of liquid like vinegar and wine, and add the egg yolks, and you're cooking the egg yolks over steam from simmering water. And as you go, you need to be careful that you're not scrambling the eggs on the side of the bowl, which I've done many times. And this will cook the eggs. I mean, it'll cook them thoroughly, so don't be scared. And then you're going to add warm or hot butter to it. And as you whisk, it's going to make the sauce. It's an emulsion sauce. If you're going to hold it for a little while after you make it, try to keep it around the 140 temperature, and only hold it for about 2 hours. And if it starts to break, just try to incorporate in a little more water. Just keep whisking, and it should come back together. But this is a decent recipe for that. And if it's your first time trying an emulsion sauce like a hollandaise, give it a try. See what happens. It's interesting, and sometimes it can take a while to get it just right. But it's something. It's quite an accomplishment once you get it right.
And last but not least, tell me about the Gruyere mashed potatoes.
These are just your basic mashed potatoes, but I prepare them a little differently. I know there are some restaurants across the country that go for the extremely rich potatoes, and that's kind of what I've gone for here. I'm using russet potatoes, and I'm cooking them whole. And when you boil them whole, it's going to take longer, but they're not going to absorb a lot of the liquid from the cooking. So when you pull them out of the water, let them cool just for a few minutes until you can handle them somewhat comfortably, and then peel them with a paring knife or whatever. And then you're going to, while they're still hot, add the butter and the cream, and the potatoes are going to absorb all of that instead of having the water from the cooking in the potatoes, which offers no flavor. You're going to have the butter and the cream. And I've heard of one chef somewhere that for every pound of potatoes he uses a pound of butter, which is a lot of butter in your mashed potatoes, but I promise you they'll be better than your average potato.